Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Panchatattva, Jaya Panchatattva. Jaya Radha Madhav, Radha Madhav, Radha Madhav, Jaya Radha Madhav. Nrisimhadev, Jai Prahlada Maharaj. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Jai Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivraja Kacharya Dhṛtarāṣṭra Śrīmad Bhagavatam Goswami Abhay Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Śrīla Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivraja Kacharya Dhṛtarāṣṭra Śrīmad Bhagavatam Goswami Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Maharaja Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Śrīla Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Om Prem Stako Śrī Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Śrī Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Ki Jai. Shri Radha Madhava Gopi Gopinath Radha Kunda Shyama Kunda Giri Govardhana Ki Jai. Vrindavana Madhura Dama Ki Jai. Mayapura Navadipa Dama Ki Jai. Ganga Maya Munamaya Ki Jai. Tulsi Maharani Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Nitai 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 Gaura Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Jai Shri Shri Guru Guranga, Jai Shri Shri Guru Guranga, Jai Shri Shri Guru Guranga, Jai Śrīla Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet. Nashta Praesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Om Agyanam Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Sham Śrī Rūpa Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajīvam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijanam Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Śrī Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Śrī Vishakam Svitam Shyam Namahom Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyatya Deshatarine Nama Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvishe Namaha Panchatatvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Svarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishibhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadkara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Today we continue reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 10, and chapter is entitled Departure of Lord Krishna for Dwaraka. Text 9, 10, and the text 10 is on the board, so I will be reading text 9. Subhadrā draupadī kuntī virāṭa-tanayā tathā gāndhārī dhṛtarāṣṭraś yuyutsur gautamo yamau. And now text 10. Vṛkodaraś dhaumyaś striyo matsya-sutā-ādayaḥ sehire vimuhyanto virahaṁ śārṅga-dhanvanaḥ vṛkodaraś dhaumyaś striyo matsya-sutā-ādayaḥ sehire vimuhyanto virahaṁ śārṅga-dhanvanaḥ vṛkodaraś striyo matsya-sutā-ādayaḥ sehire vimuhyanto virahaṁ śārṅga-dhanvanaḥ. Next, please. Vṛkodaraś dhaumyaś matsya-sutā-ādayaḥ virahaṁ śārṅga-dhanvanaḥ. Vṛkodaraś dhaumyaś striyo matsya-sutā-ādayaḥ sehire vimuhyanto virahaṁ śārṅga-dhanvanaḥ. Vṛkodaraś dhaumyaś striyo matsya-sutā-ādayaḥ sehire vimuhyanto virahaṁ śārṅga-dhanvanaḥ. Vṛkodaraś dhaumyaś striyo matsya-sutādayaḥ, sehire vimuhyanto, virahaṁ śārṅga-dhanvanaḥ. Vaishnaviskus. Vṛkodaraś dhaumyaś, striyo matsya-sutā-ādayaḥ, sehire vimuhyanto, virahaṁ śārṅga-dhanvanaḥ. Word by word translation. Subhadrā, the sister of Krishna. Draupadī, the wife of the Pāṇḍavas. Kuntī, the mother of the Pāṇḍavas. Virāṭa-tanayā, the daughter of Virāṭa, Uttarā. Tathā, also. Gaandhārī, the mother of Duryodhana. Dhṛtarāṣṭra, the father of Duryodhana. And yuyutsur, the son of Dhṛtarāṣṭra by his vaiśya wife. Gautamaḥ, Kripacharya, Yamau, the twin brothers Nakula and Sahadeva. Vṛkodaraś, Bhima, and dhaumyaś, and striyo, also other ladies of the palace. Matsya-sutā-ādayaḥ, the daughter of a fisherman. Satyavati, Bhishma's stepmother. Could not, sehire, tolerate, vimuhyanto, almost fainting, virahaṁ, separation, śārṅga-dhanvanaḥ, of Śrī Kṛṣṇa, one who bears the bow śārṅga in his hand. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Śrīla Prabhupada Ki Jai. At that time, Subhadrā, Draupadī, Kuntī, Uttarā, Gaندhārī, dhṛtarāṣṭra, yuyutsur, Kripacharya, Nakula, Sahadeva, Bhimasena, dhaumyaś, and Satyavati all nearly fainted because it was impossible for them to bear separation from Lord Krishna. Purport. Lord Śrī Kṛṣṇa is so attractive for the living beings, especially for the devotees, that it's impossible for them to tolerate separation. The conditioned soul under the spell of illusory energy forgets the Lord, otherwise he cannot. The feeling of such separation cannot be described, but it can simply be imagined by devotees only. Only imagined. After his separation from Vrindavana, and the innocent rural cowherd boys, girls, ladies, and others, they all felt shock throughout their lives. And the separation of Radharani, the most beloved cowherd girl, is beyond expression. Only they met at Kurukshetra during a solar eclipse, and the feeling which was expressed by them is heart-rending. There is, of course, a difference in the qualities of the transcendental devotees of the Lord, but none of them who have ever contacted the Lord by direct communication or otherwise can leave him for a moment. That is the attitude of the pure devotee. Once more translation. Can we please repeat together? At that time, Subhadrā, Draupadī, Kuntī, Uttarā, Gaandhārī, dhṛtarāṣṭra yuyutsur, Kripacharya, Nakula Sahadeva, Bhimasen, Dhaumya and Satyavati, all nearly fainted because it was impossible for them to bear separation from Lord Krishna. So this particular section of verses from Srimad Bhagavatam, for this 10th chapter, describes two things. How Krishna is naturally attracted to all living beings, not just to his devotees, as it's mentioned by Srila Prabhupada. And also it describes the intensity of the influence of this Krishna's attractiveness, how it affects the living entities, the attractiveness of Krishna. So it's from 7th to 14th verse of this chapter will be describing all this attractive feature of Krishna and the influence of this attractiveness. So verse 7 explains that Krishna resided in Hastinapura for a few months to pacify his relatives, but not just his relative actually, to pacify all Hastinapura Vasis, because they had to accept Maharaja Yudhishthira, who in his consideration, who is his thought, was in fault of killing so many people on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Was 80 million people were killed during this Kurukshetra war. So Maharaja Yudhishthira took all the responsibility on his shoulder and told, I'm a main person who is responsible for it. So Krishna had to pacify all the Hastinapura Vasis, actually all the inhabitants of Bharatavarsha, so that they accept Maharaja Yudhishthira. Actually, it was one of the purposes of Krishna's advent. He came to glorify the pious, great, saintly kings. For what? To establish Dharma on the earth. Otherwise, if Krishna will not stress the important role of Maharaja Yudhishthira for whole humanity, at that time, who would accept him? Although he was pious, and it was evident that he is also advanced to become a ruler of the whole earth, still the influence of Krishna was so that everyone could accept Maharaja Yudhishthira. So for this purpose, he was staying for a few months in Hastinapur to pacify everyone. And then he took permission from Yudhishthira, as we heard in last verse yesterday, to leave. And after exchanging of these different feelings of love, the impression of this great deep affection towards Krishna and his deep love towards his devotees, after exchanging the obeisances and embraces of his loved one, he took permission from Yudhishthira to leave and mounted his chariot. And this was the point from which we start the discussion today. And now, unable to tolerate separation from Lord Krishna, so many his relatives, like they're so different by nature. His material svabhava is so different. Like if we just examine this list of the personalities who almost fainted by this separation from Krishna. Actually, it was not even separation, it was anticipation of this separation. But because it was felt as a separation, it considered separation. That one of the types of separation, we'll go through all these types of separation, we will describe them one by one today. For our better understanding, we will examine the separation, because today's topic, the attractiveness of Krishna, and the effect of this attractiveness. They cannot bear separation. So the key word is separation. Viraha is here. And actually the slow virahaṁ, it occurs here in this chapter of verses for a few times. That means it's extremely important for us to understand what is viraha. Especially Pāṇḍavas, who intimately associate with Lord Krishna in so many ways. They were so absorbed in Krishna by sitting together, conversing together, eating together, sleeping together, and doing so many things. Krishna was the main person in their life. And being so attracted to him and so attached to him, now their heart melted in affection when they saw him living. They looked at him with unblinking eyes. Female relatives struggled to control their senses because they didn't want to somehow invoke the inauspiciousness, because it's considered to be inauspicious when the cries are there during the departure of some loved one. So they try to avoid, they try to control their tears. So as we said, there is no still viraha, there is no separation with Krishna, there's just anticipation of this. But because it's felt like that type of separation which is called sudura-pravas, when Krishna goes so far from the devotees, and these relatives which are listed here, they don't know even if they will see him again or not. And that was happened. They didn't see him again. It was last coming Krishna to Hastinapur and staying with his beloved relatives there. So that's Sudura Pravas of second type. Sudura, there are 4 kinds of separation. We are going ahead. The Purvarak. Purvarak, what is a Purvarak? That's preliminary affection towards the Lord, preliminary raga or preliminary attraction towards the Lord, attachment to him. And why it's in the category of separation? Because there is no still meeting. It's just preliminary attraction and attachment to him prior to the meeting. And it should be there so that meeting could have take place. But here, because the raga is there, already attachment is there, but there is no meeting, so that's separation because of unfulfilled raga. So it's called Purva Raga. It's also interesting that each day of Radha and Krishna, we know that there are 8 divisions in eternal pastimes of the Lord, 8 divisions of the day. So first, the divisions start from Purva Raga, as if it's completely a new thing for all of them, like this preliminary affection, as if they didn't see each other, they didn't got attached to each other, as they didn't meet each other, didn't separate each other. So it's like totally new thing again and again. So it starts from this Purva Raga, preliminary attachment, when Srimati Radharani heard the name of Krishna. This is the first cause of this preliminary attachment, how the attachment comes into picture, how it appears through the hearing of the name of Krishna. Someone told, oh, Krishna now is in his palace, and Mother Yashoda is waiting for you to cook. You have to go. And that's how it happened. And the first time, Vishaka, she showed the picture of Krishna, that how it strengthened this Purva Raga between them. By seeing this beautiful form of Krishna, the heart of Radha melted, and whatever was there, it just started coming out. So this preliminary attachment is needed. There is no meeting yet, but there is strong feelings there. So by hearing, by seeing, and then by taking prasadam, because it was the day of Krishna's birthday, somehow the prasad from him was there, offered to him. So remnant came to Srimati Radharani. That's through the taste, sense of taste, the connection with Krishna also came into picture. The preliminary raga strengthened even more the preliminary attachment. So this is Purva Raga. And then the second kind of separation is pravas. That's what we mentioned already. Pravas means something at distance, when Krishna goes somewhere, either for short or for long. There is Dura Pravas and Sudura Pravas. Dura Pravas means short distance. He is absent, but for short, not for long. Let's say when he is going to the forest for herding the cows, Durapravas. So they know that he will return, and very soon they will again see him and meet him. And Sudarapravas, that when Krishna goes far, and this is the highest type of separation, that most intense separation. And of this Sudarapravas, right now, that's the description of Sudarapravas, when he goes from Hastinapur to Dwaraka, and they will not see him again in their life. And the Sudarapravas is of three types. At first, when the anticipation of this separation comes in the heart of the inhabitants of Rajabhumi, when Akrura comes. That's described in first place how it comes, the Sudarapravas, when Krishna leaves Vrindavan. So first Akrura comes, and all the residents of Vrindavan started anticipating the separation. The fear of this separation came to their mind. This is the first type of Sudarapravas, anticipation of the separation. And then exactly the state of affairs which described now, Krishna mounted the chariot. And this is most intense. Out of all the kinds of separation, this is most intense. Why? Because prana is leaving the body. Prana is leaving the heart of the devotees. Without Krishna, they cannot live. And their prana not is living. And then the whole thing, when gopis, because it was unbearable for them, they decided, okay, the prana is living, the life is leaving us, why to keep this body alive? So better we just finished off with our life, and they just throw themselves under the chariot. That the most intense, the Acharya says that the most intense feeling of separation which Radha had towards Krishna. Because here Srila Prabhupada mentions the separation of Radharani. And this separation is the most. Why? Because her feeling of attachment of Krishna is the utmost, the deepest, the most strong. Therefore, in Chaitanya Charitamrita, explaining the mood of separation of Lord Chaitanya, who came to experience the separation of Srimati Radharani in his love of Krishna, Srila Prabhupada comments at Madhya Lila. He comments that advanced devotee always strive for this feeling of separation. He strives to develop. He wants to develop. His desire to feel this. Why? Because the feeling of separation exceeds the feeling of union. And this is the mood of our sampradaya. It's very important to understand what we are following. And in Upadeshamrita it said, if we cannot understand this mission of Lord Chaitanya and what he came to give, and what we are following, we cannot follow this mission, we cannot be in this mission. And the main thing for him to experience that the love of Rajavasis, and especially of Raja Gopis, and especially in the mood of separation, that was so attractive to them. And out of all the types of separation we are discussing now, he came to experience this one, Sudarapravas, of the second kind, when Krishna mounted the chariot and he leaves Vrindavan. That was that feeling of separation which gave so many wonderful expressions of this separation in different feelings and different emotions and different postures and different transformations of the body. All of them are the different kinds of ecstasies, and they called Yabhicharis ecstasies, very intense ecstasies which occurred during separation. But because he couldn't control this, he is not Srimati Radharani. As Gaur-Govinda Maharaj explained, he has stolen these feelings from Srimati Radharani. He couldn't really control them. Therefore, this separation with Krishna in the mood of Srimati Radharani in him manifested in such forms that never manifested before. Like sometimes he shrunk and became like a tortoise, his legs and hands, they entered the body, or sometimes his joint became loose and he became like 3 meters long. And sometimes the blood was just pouring from the pores of his body. It never heard before of all these different kinds of transformations. It was experienced by Lord Chaitanya. Now became coming back to this verse and this section, Kunti Devi also expresses this fear of separation. How? It's interesting. She desired disasters. Vipadakṣantu takṣaśva tatra tatra jagadguru bhavato darshanayasya apunarbhava darshanaha. Let these calamities come again and again to you, be always with us. That means we won't be separated. If these calamities come, that is her way to get rid of this separation or anticipation of this separation. And actually it's a great lesson for us as well, how to meditate on separation with the Lord, like desiring disasters, and then if the disasters come, Krishna will come. And if he is in our presence, there will be no punarbhava adarshanaha. We will never see this bhava again. Bhava means what? Material existence. The repeated birth and death, it will be finished with them. Because we will be with Krishna in union. Once the relationship with Krishna is even slightly revived, the soul becomes mad after the association with Krishna. This special feature of spiritual intelligence, we are coming now to this very interesting point described in the next verse. That's about spiritual intelligence and how it manifests itself. It manifests in not tolerating at all the separation with Krishna. So with the spiritual, if someone endowed already with the spiritual intelligence, with spiritual mind and spiritual senses, they cannot bear the separation. It's just intolerable for them. We are coming to this point. The intelligence freed from bad association cannot give up the association with Krishna. How? Through hearing. The first thing, how we associate, through hearing. We will be always eager to hear about Krishna more and more and more. Its eagerness there, and it's increasing with the extent of this separation, with the extent of feeling of this separation, with the extent of attachment to Krishna in a feeling of this separation. And Maharaja Prahlada nicely explains this feature of spiritual intelligence, because it's so important for us to understand what is this viraha for us, how to develop it, because that's what we are striving here for. That's our mood, the mood of our sampradaya. Anarpitam charit chirat karunaya vatirna kalo samarpaitam unnata ujvala rasa sva bhakti shriya. Anarpitam, what was not given before, charim charat, long ago, ever actually. Ujvala rasa sva bhakti shriya. Samarpaitam, this to bestow the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the mother of, who is the Shachi-tanayā, or the son of Mother Shachi, came into this Kali at the age of quarrel to bestow the most precious, unnata ujvala rasa. Samarpayat means gift, to give something. That's gift, that bestowing, that the act of bestowing something very precious, despite of your already having your own nature. You may or may not accept. It depends on you. If you have this desire, you will be given this gift. How we will accept gift? According to our desire. If you want, we will accept. If not, then it's not ours. So, samarpaitam unnata ujvala rasa, what he came to give from himself. This is a gift of our sampradaya, which is given here by Lord Chaitanya. Unnata means the highest. Highest is what? Why it's highest? Ujvala. Ujvala means brilliant, effulgent, Why it's effulgent? What is effulgent? That's Madhurya. That's the highest perfection of relationship with Krishna. That's Madhurya. And the special Madhurya. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that prema, Madhurya, given in our sampradaya is not given anywhere else. It's only prerogative. That's our greatest luck that we are here in this sampradaya. We can get this as a special, very valuable gift from the Lord, from His divine hand. And He is giving this freely by hearing about Him being in this mood. When we hear, we are getting it, if we desire so. So for us, it's very important to hear what viraha is. And Prahlada Maharaja further explains this in the 7th canto, at chapter 5, verse 14. O Brahmana, this is conversation between Prahlada Maharaja and his teacher, Shanda and Amarga. When teachers ask him, what is the source of your intelligence? How you got this intelligence? It's so different from our intelligence, our consciousness and your consciousness. Totally different matters, totally different realities. So how you got your intelligence? And Prahlada Maharaja answers, O Brahmana, as iron moves automatically towards the magnet, my intelligence moves on its own towards Vishnu and moves away from your intelligence. So, nice analogy is given here. Like iron is moved automatically towards the magnet. This is the nature of magnet, to attract the iron. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur nicely explains this analogy. Just as the magnet has its nature of attracting the iron, Vishnu has its nature to attract the living entities by akarsha. The special power of the Lord Himself. Therefore, He is Krishna, coming from akarsha. Akarsha means to attract. He is Krishna because He is all attracted to all living entities. And this consciousness moving towards the Lord, coming automatically, without even spontaneously. He explains further that it's not caused by bias, karmas, austerity, or charities. It's just going on automatically. This akarsha and acceptance of this akarsha. The mind of the devotee becomes attracted to the Lord, controlled by its mercy. And what is the mercy? The ability to accept akarsha. Ability to accept this shakti of attractiveness. It should come by His mercy. And it's also explained by Krishna Himself, how He is equal towards all living entities. It's explained in 1612. Krishna described trees there. We know this analogy. He says different trees, they give different fruits. Some of them they give bitter fruits, some of them they give sour fruits, some of them they give sweet fruits. So what are these trees with different phalas, different fruits? They are conditioned nature. They're different materially conditioned living entities. Some of them in tamas, and they give which fruits? Bitter. Some of them in rajas, and they give which fruits? The bitter and sour. And then some of them they in goodness, and their trees, the trees of their body gives the highest, the sweetest, the sweet fruits. And Krishna says, what are these actually fruits? That's attachment to Krishna. Means whoever are materially motivated, whoever are materially conditioned, are they either not interested in Krishna or slightly interested or highly interested, more interested. So that what Krishna meant by his analogy. So different fruits, a different attraction to him. And then he explains, there are so many living entities and I maintain everyone. Therefore, I am equal like rain. Why? Because rain should be equal to maintain everything. Rain doesn't discriminate. Okay, I pour my water onto this tree or onto this tree, and this tree will be avoided by me. It's not there. There is no discrimination like this. And then he continued, but some trees watered by the rain give sweet fruit, and others give bitter fruit. That is not defect of the rain, but their nature. And Krishna himself admits this. There is no my attachment and aversion that makes them either accept or not accept me. I am rewarding accordingly. And this is a condition for conditioned living entity. This is about conditioned living entity. And then he adds, Krishna, but my devotee gets special treatment by the reign of my mercy. What is this treatment? He feels the maintenance of the Lord, his love and affection to the utmost extent. He always accepts. It's always accessible for him, and he is very sensitive to seeing the love of the Lord everywhere, especially in his circumstances, in his love. And therefore he attracted to the Lord to the fullest extent. This akarsha acts to the fullest extent on this devotee. But if we examine this verse, I am going to this paradoxical apparent contradiction. If we go through this list of the devotees mentioned here, who almost fainted when Krishna leaves, so different. We have here Subhadrā, Draupadī, Kuntī, Uttarā, Gāndhārī, dhṛtarāṣṭra, yuyutsur, Kripacharya, Nakula, Sahadeva, Bhīmasena, dhaumyaś, and Satyavati. Some of them, by their svabhava, material svabhava, they give bitter fruits. They cannot, by their nature, they cannot be attracted to the Lord. Dhṛtarāṣṭra. He considered Krishna his enemy. How come? Now, during the separation with Krishna, he almost fainted. As if he is close relative like Pāṇḍavas. How come? What is the secret here? Or Satyavati. Actually, his ambitious nature, it is said that Dhṛtarāṣṭra, God, inherited from Satyavati. Like mother, like son. Right? So the son gets the qualities of the mother. Actually, it was not the mother, it was grandmother, but anyway. So it said that the nature of Satyavati manifested in Dhṛtarāṣṭra's nature. So now we have Dhṛtarāṣṭra almost fainted. Means, what does it mean for us? Or Kripacharya. He was fighting against Krishna. He was fighting against Pāṇḍavas. He is the priest of Kuru dynasty, and he was fighting against the Pāṇḍavas. Like, how comes that he's fainting now during the time of separation with Krishna? So all of them, they consider Krishna their enemy, especially, and Gaundhārī as well, because she cursed Krishna. We know this, right? After Pāṇḍavas, by the will of the Lord, they killed 100 son of Dhṛtarāṣṭra. Gaundhārī just cursed Krishna to be killed as well, in such a dramatic and unusual way for the Supreme Personality of Krishna to be killed in heel, like by some hunter. He also, from this point of view, he's on the side of Dhṛtarāṣṭra and demonic forces which were there on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And Prahlāda Maharaj. So that means that the presence of the Lord changed their heart totally. So much so that they became Premi Bhakta. They got this prema on the spot. Therefore, the Lord came to Hastinapur to stay there, to change the consciousness. So much so they got this attraction, and the feeling they manifest during the separation are the best evidence that they got prema. Even Dhṛtarāṣṭra, Gaundhārī, Kripacharya, what to say about Pāṇḍavas? Are they naturally attracted to the Lord to the utmost extent? And from this verse we can understand, actually Prahlāda Maharaj also experienced this state of utmost attraction. What's the time? 8:50. And it's explained in 7th canto. Upon seeing the charming form of the Lord, smiling and attractive, and hearing his very pleasing word, the pure devotee loses all other interest. Okay, back to that wonderful point, that's a continuation. It's said by Bhagavatam that just merely by his presence the Lord established Dharma on the earth. What does it mean? His qualities is so elevated. His effulgence, actually, it was also described that how his effulgence, because his effulgence, spiritual effulgence, emanate the internal energy of the Lord, could dissipate the darkness of ignorance in the heart of all the living entities. Merely his presence on the earth, by his qualities, by this wonderful, he might not do anything. He might not even fight the battlefield of Kurukshetra, but because there were so many of these demons, and part of this mission was to kill them, but he could transfer them. He was able to transfer them just by his presence there. So that's what he did, especially in this case, when he gave prema to all his relatives, who was inimical towards them otherwise. Dhṛtarāṣṭra and Kripacharya and others. That's how he re-established the Dharma. Therefore, he was staying there for 2 months to do so. And now they are free. And now they got to the highest perfection. And now they got the highest prema. And now they showed this in the feelings of separation and the different signs of these feelings which they manifest now. They nearly fainted. And then Krishna mounted the chariot, and now I want us to somehow, we don't have so much time, to examine the chariot of our body and how it's connected with the feeling of separation. It's described by Maharaja Prahlada. Upon seeing the charming form of the Lord, smiling and attractive, and hearing his very pleasing words, the pure devotee loses all other interest. See, before we are interested in so many things in this material world. We are interested in the sense objects, in different sense objects, in the varieties of the sense object, and in the pleasure which are given by this sense object. But now, pure devotee loses all interest. But his senses are freed from all other engagement, and he becomes absorbed in devotional service. It becomes only focus for the pure devotee. And from this verse we can understand how it works actually, how our spiritual body works. It's also important for us. It's the same chariot. We remember the chariot of the body. It's explained by Krishna. This analogy is given in Bhagavad Gita. Yeah. What is what in this chariot? Chariot is the physical body. And then, who is the driver? Intelligence. And what are the reins? The mind. And the horses are the senses. Okay, that's the same. Is it the same? Physical, material body and spiritual body. Is it the same? The same reality? The same chariot with the same features? The senses are there, mind, intelligence are there, right? Yeah, we can say this. They are not divided. They are not divided into gross and subtle, like sections of our body. And in our body we have gross body, and we have subtle body, and we have finally the soul, which is a passenger of this body, right? But in the spiritual body, we have all of them, but not divided. They are different features of the spiritual body by functions. The same functions of the mind is there, sankalpa, vikalpa, to accept or reject. There in the spiritual body. That's what we are doing as pure devotees. We accepting and rejecting. But now what? It's also interesting. The functions of intelligence also there. What is this? It's remembrance or remembrance and vichara and viveka. What is the remembrance? How we call the remembrance? Okay, these three things are there as functions of intelligence. First, the memory, and then vichara, the proceeding, what is in the content of this memory. The content of this memory should be thought about. We have to understand what we are taking, what we are getting, which kind of knowledge. We have to systematize it, categorize it. This the vichara. And viveka, then when everything is categorized and systematized and all the folders with different labels are there in our memory, as a result of this vichara, or the ability to proceed, ability to understand, ability to think, to analyze. Then viveka comes into place, and viveka, that's ability to discriminate what is good, what is bad for me. The same functions we will have in the spiritual body and as well. And what is the difference between spiritual and material? Original spiritual senses can only function when they connect with original objects, spiritual object, and this is Krishna. His rupa, the gunas of this rupa, his name, and of course the lilas. When this connection is there, then the spiritual body can live. If there is no this connection, then viraha, the separation, that the absence, Krishna is not accessible externally. So the senses cannot live without Krishna. That's how they designed. Original senses, spiritual senses, are designed in such a way that they can live, their prana, that the object of the senses, that the Rupa Krishna and Guna Krishna and Lila Krishna. If they're together, if our eyes see Krishna, if our ears hear the voice of Krishna, if our tongue tastes the wonderful taste of Krishna, then we are alive as spiritual living entities. That's how the spiritual body works. And if they internally or externally, there is no Krishna anymore in the picture, as in Kali Yuga it said, we cannot get in touch with Krishna externally. Krishna will not appear despite of all our efforts. That's the speciality of Kali Yuga. How then we connect with Krishna? How then we meet Krishna? On the level of bhava, he comes in our heart. The descendant of Krishna, or revelation of Krishna, manifestation of Krishna comes from within, not without. It was probably last who saw Krishna outwardly. It was Narada Muni. Maybe remember this, how Narada was meditating and all of a sudden Krishna appeared in front of him, and Narada Muni in despondence, he couldn't understand what happened. His meditation broke, and then he saw Krishna outwardly. That was the last probably time when a devotee experienced Krishna's presence face to face. But for all other, Krishna comes inside. So that's what we said. The spiritual senses, the life force, to be connected with original spiritual sense object, the Rupa Guna Lila of Krishna. But when this object becomes unacceptable or inaccessible to the spiritual senses outwardly, they lose their life force. It's like totally paralyzed, and it happens so oftenly. At the beginning of day, the third prakara or third kala, when Krishna goes to the forest, when Krishna leaves, then the consciousness of Vrajavasi also leaves them. And they took home their bodies. Their minds followed Krishna to the forest. That means the mind is immersed in meditation. Now mind, because it's king of all the senses. He comes and let's go inside, because eternally you cannot live. Your prana is out, your prana gone to the forest. Krishna gone to the forest. Let's come inside. We will meditate now. So then mind, if Krishna is not accessible anymore externally, mind meditates on Krishna. Therefore, it's said that consciousness of Rajavasi leads them to, and the mind, they follow Krishna into the forest. That's their meditation. Because to be able to live, they have somehow to be connected to Krishna again, and it's happening inside, in their heart. And when mind meditates of pure devotee, then immediately Krishna appears on the lotus of their heart for this loving exchange. This is viraha. Externally, Krishna is not there, but internally, he comes there. And it's also said by so many our acharyas that there is no separation as such. They are always coming together. In every separation, in all the kinds of separation, there will be also union, sambhog, vipralambha and sambhoga. Vipralambha is the separation, because I don't have time, it's already 9. Vipra and lambha, the separation. Vipra means something which is gotten, and lambha at distance. How to get something at distance. How to reach something at distance. How to get something at distance. It's just impossible. What does it mean? That whatever was at distance become very close when you meditate on it. That sambhoga comes together with vipralambha. That's how you got vipralambha. You got the Lord, meditating on Him inside. And this is our mood. This mood came to experience Lord Chaitanya. And there's two kinds of activity of spiritual senses, either external or internal. But the essence of both, they have to be united with the original sense object. That's Krishna, either outwardly or inwardly. So without this, we cannot live as spiritual living entity. And now the last point made by Raghunath Das Goswami in his Manak Shiksha, he explains the mood of separation. The mood of separation, or vipralambha, experienced in conjugal mellow, which is seemingly painful and sad, is incidental. It's factually and merely a transformation of intense ecstasy. There is no way that this feeling can be equated with the sorrow of a living entity experiencing in mundane plane. And when we speak about the speaker, and when we hear about the separation of the elevated devotees such as Srimati Radharani, which is expressed here in the purport by Srila Prabhupada, we have to understand that she experienced the highest bliss. And Srila Prabhupada told us that this feeling of separation is needed for experiencing the highest bliss of the love. Otherwise, this bliss, which was there in the mission of Lord Chaitanya as his desire to experience the bliss of Srimati Radharani, it cannot be experienced without the separation, because separation, especially the Sudara Pravasa of the second type, it melts the heart so much that all the whatever was there as a vessel of love, the love comes there in most pure heart, as furnace melts gold. We know that the temperature of the melting of gold is so high, and on the way to the melting point, the gold, although it's impure at the beginning, get rid of all the impurities. All the impurities in the process of melting the gold, because the temperature of the melting of the gold is so high, they just evaporate, all the impurities. The same with the love, but it should be melted. The love is melted by separation. Therefore, the end of it is purity. The love becomes as pure as molten gold. That's what attracts Krishna the most. Therefore, that's the mood of our sampradaya. So we cannot continue more because it's extremely high topic and it's a vast ocean. To actually, just to say about separation. If you have any questions, we can discuss at least one or two. Yes, Prabhu. Can you please speak louder?
Yeah, thank you very much for the wonderful class. When you mentioned about the Dhṛtarāṣṭra, that Dhṛtarāṣṭra is also fainting when Krishna is leaving, and how Krishna's presence changes the hearts of the people. At the same time, I am reflecting, Srila Prabhupada sometimes said that when Krishna was there on the planet, only very few people could recognize him as Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, I mean, how to understand these four things? Like, I mean, Dhṛtarāṣṭra's heart is melting, his heart is changing, and at the same time, many times, like many people don't even recognize when Krishna is on the planet that he is Supreme Personality of Godhead.
It's also an interesting question because this attraction towards Krishna is possible only because of his will. When Krishna desires someone to be attracted to him, this akarsha acts, despite of the person being in tamas or rajas or in demoniac species at all. So, because the purpose of his mission was to kill this time so many demons, he didn't want to transform there by his will. He did this as Lord Chaitanya. So he came for the second time to show how to transform the sinner in the sinner, how to transform the consciousness of a sinner, not killed by without killing the sinner. He did it in this his advent as Lord Chaitanya, not in the first one, by his sweet will. It was needed for the mission at that time. Only few, because he wanted the continuation of it. He wanted to come to show the example of what he described as bhakti. There was no example, neither from his side nor from the side of his devotee. But bhakti should be manifested so brightly, in such a way that everyone can see the and will be attracted. So it was done by Lord Chaitanya, not by Krishna. His mission was in something other. And because he personally couldn't fulfill these three desires, he had to come again as Lord Chaitanya. Therefore they come in always together in one day of Brahma, in one by one they come in. So these desires, we know he wanted to understand the nature of love of Srimati Radharani the first. I think what is there in that love which make me so anxious to get this love. Although I am Atmarama, I am Atmakana, but still her love make me mad. It doesn't happen like with any other kind of living entities between Krishna and them. Only with Srimati Radharani he feels like this. So he wants to understand the nature of this love. What is in this love which make him so anxious to get this love, to experience this love. And then second, his innermost internal desire was to taste himself, his qualities, his sweetness through the love of Srimati Radharani by accepting her bhava. And with this bhava to taste what she tastes when she serves the sweetness of Krishna. It was his second desire, and he couldn't do this as Krishna. He tried, because Krishna is Vishaya, and he tried so much to become an Ashraya, being a Vishaya, but somehow it was impossible. And it manifested this impossibility of experiences this in not having the same bliss. That the third desire, to experience the bliss which Radharani feels when she serves his sweetness. And Krishna admits himself in Adi Purana to Arjuna. Radharani experienced the bliss by serving me, by loving me 10 million times more than me. Although I am a Vishaya, I am a supreme person, I am a supreme controller, I am a supreme enjoyer, but still I cannot enjoy as she enjoys. Therefore, she had to come as Ashraya now. She tried being a Vishaya to experience the same, but because this nature could not be covered with anything, how to cover the nature of Vishaya to accept the service. And because this acceptance of the service, he couldn't feel the same bliss. So he had to come as Ashraya, the abode of love, to give this love to himself. Therefore, he had to come as Ashraya. It was the second part of his mission. And to give the same experience to others, not for himself to get the feelings of Srimati Radharani, her bliss, the experiencing of Krishna, but to give all others the same thing. He wanted thus to change our consciousness by this, by giving the highest type of prema, Vraja prema, specifically Gopi prema, specifically in separation. That what makes this experience most sublime, because the intensity of the prema is the utmost in this separation. And it said, just 1 second, by Prahlada Maharaj, he mentions there, when Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains this verse and this analogy about the magnet and iron, he explained by the will of the Lord, the living entity can accept this akarsha, attractiveness of the Lord. That was the will. In this case, he was staying in Hastinapur to give this will. Okay, now I want you to be attracted. And thus I want you to get this prema, to re-establish Maharaja Yudhishthira as the emperor of the world, so that everyone would follow him. It was needed. Then in Hastinapur everyone got the same. Even the wives of the enemies of Pāṇḍavas were glorifying Krishna like anything from the roofs of their palaces. Their sons, their relatives were killed, and initially they considered Krishna the enemies, but now they were so transformed that so wonderful prayer just came out of their mouths so naturally. All the Hastinapura Vasis, they got this prema, not just a relative, not a close relative like Kuruk lion. Even those who were there on the battle as the enemies of Pāṇḍavas, they also got prema by the mercy of the Lord, by his will.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you very much for a nice class describing separation and how wonderful the devotional service is in separation. Sometimes we are told by devotees, by preachers, that we should practice separation from Krishna.
We have to practice separation. I will.
And also when chanting, we have to feel separation from Krishna. Like sometimes devotees are saying this. So what aspect of separation from the four types of separation you described we should be practicing, and how it will help us to actually get the proper mood of separation? Is it even possible, or is it we have to actually see Krishna to actually feel separation?
Thank you. It's a very nice question. Also, what is our part here? How it's connected to us? What we should derive from this? It's said by Bhaktivinoda Thakur that for us the only possible kind of separation which we can feel in our relationship with Krishna is the first type, purvarag, a preliminary attraction to Krishna. It means we are anticipating, in anticipation to meet Krishna. That's the only separation which is accessible for us, embodied here in the material world. Otherwise, neither pravas nor man nor prema vaiśya they're impossible to feel. We didn't describe them, all of them, because there is no time for this, because they are required the direct presence of Krishna, and we cannot expect this. So for us, the preliminary, we are developing our raga, spontaneous attraction to Krishna, and thus we feel more and more separation from Krishna. And how to develop, it's also explained. Bhakti yoga and the mood of chanting of the holy name, it's also explained by different acharyas. I like this verse: Bhakti yoga, Bhakti yoga, Bhakti yoga dhana, Bhakti e Krishna nam, smarana krandana. Let's explain everything. The mood of chanting. Bhakti yoga, Bhakti yoga, Bhakti yoga. 3 times repeated means it's very important for us. What is Bhakti yoga? Bhakti yoga, Bhakti yoga, Bhakti yoga dhana. That's only dhana, only wealth which can be here. That's Bhakti yoga. Even if you are a millionaire, but without bhakti, you're last poor person, last pauper, actually speaking. But with bhakti yoga, even a pauper become a millionaire. So that's only wealth in this material world. Dhana. And what is bhakti as a dhana? Bhakti e Krishna nam. How we are getting bhakti, how it's expressed, bhakti or devotion, through chanting of the holy name. And what is the mood of chanting? Smaranam krandanam. It's 2 things should be in our nama. It should be our chanting. Smarana, remembering the Lord, that what is here. Meditation on the Lord, when the mind is absorbed, giving the prana to the senses, to the spiritual senses, in krandana, with the tears in the eyes. Krandana means one of the 8 sattvika vikaras, or 8 ecstasies which experienced by body, and when there is a connection with internal energy, the krandana, ashru, ramancha kampa ashru, that the manifestation of the feelings by spiritual master. We hear this every day, we sing this every day. Ramancha kampa ashru daranga bhaja, that ashru, that spiritual master is already in separation. That's krandana, that tears of separation should be there. And my Guru Maharaj say, how we can feel this separation. And before, with the Lord, it was asked first by one disciple, Gaur-Govinda Maharaj, I don't know Krishna, how to feel separation with him. And Gaur-Govinda Maharaj told that, yes, you don't know Krishna, but you know your spiritual master. And when spiritual master leaves this world, then you understand what separation is. Why? Because we get this raga first in our relationship with our Guru. We don't know Krishna. It's not so much prominent, like his manifestation in our life for us, being conditioned. We cannot see. Gradually we will see the hand of Krishna everywhere in our life, in all circumstances. But first we get this raga, preliminary attraction towards our spiritual master, with our spiritual master. That's how we get this feeling of separation when he goes somewhere, when especially leaves this mortal world. It was the point of Gaur-Govinda Maharaj made. And if we cannot cry in separation with the Lord, we have to cry of not being able to cry. And if we cannot cry of our not being able to cry, we have to cry of not being able to cry, of not being able to cry. But like this, somehow or other should be some motive or some reason for us to cry. We have to find it. And it should be in our chanting. That's the mood of our chanting.
Thank you very much for your wonderful explanation. So Radharani, she is eternally meeting with Krishna. How does she experience Purvarag? like in anticipation of meeting Krishna, she only heard about Krishna from maybe Yashoda or from others. She heard the description of Krishna. So is it just Yogamaya covering, she forgets that she actually met with Krishna? Like how does she experience Purvara?
Yeah, because this relationship, they are always growing. Nothing is stable there. At each point, the love growing, the relationship based on this love growing, the intensity of this relationship growing, and therefore next day it was not the same level, as if nothing was experienced before, completely new level. Therefore Purvaraga comes on the new level. It's not the same Purvaraga, that because something was there previous day, but it's totally new level. Like this, everything's there, like extending, increasing, and this feeling as well. Therefore, each day like new day, totally new, on new level of experiencing the relationship with each other.
Thank you very much, Mataji, for the wonderful class. We have that pastime wherein Lord Krishna enters the arena of Kansa.
Krishna enters
the arena of Kansa, that fight. Different people see him in different view. The common people saw him in a way. So that time the attraction was different according to their level of advancement, I can say. But here in this particular verse, it says the attraction seems to be same, irrespective of. So why this?
I tried to explain this because Krishna gave them prema. He gave them the highest, despite of them being not qualified for this, especially the opposite side, like Dhṛtarāṣṭra and vice versa, who was there in his camp. So they were not qualified, but because Maharaja Yudhishthira is supposed to be established as the emperor of the whole world, everyone had to accept them. Therefore, for this purpose, Krishna gave them prema. Sorry? No. No, it was not the purpose at that time, but here, time, place and circumstances, he acts differently according to different part of the mission, the different times of the mission, different purposes.
А я на русский буду говорить, а вы переводите, если можно. Вы сказали, что как дождь на разные места и получаются разные вещи.
I said that the rain pours equally on everything, without discriminating. Yeah.
И когда Кришна уходил, это было дождь для всех, которые мы слышали.
And when Krishna was leaving, departing now, то есть в этом стихе, когда он уходил. Yeah. It was the same. The rain was pouring, the rain of mercy was pouring for everyone with this departure.
В Бхагавад-гите говорится, что кто обращается к Кришне, несчастные.
And in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells us who accept him, who come to Krishna. And artharthi, jigyasur. So artharthi means the sufferers. They want to get rid of their sufferings. Yeah.
В этот момент Dhṛtarāṣṭra и его супруга были самые несчастные.
Yeah, at that time, the situation of Dhṛtarāṣṭra was the most painful because he was a sufferer who lost 100 of his sons. Yeah.
И надо помнить, что они после этого пошли ванапраста, пошли по святым местам. То есть они получили тот же из дождя, который для них было нужно.
And after this, they accepted vanaprastha. They went to the forest, for more bhakti, for this kind of austerity which was accessible for them at that time. That means they got this mercy of the rain. They got the part of this mercy from the reign of Krishna.
Thank you for a class, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for your comment. Wonderful. Thank you. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai. Nitai 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 Gaura Premanande Hari Bol.